One of the biggest mistakes pastors make, and one of the main reasons pastors struggle, is not having the right kind of people around them. As a pastor of 28 years and leadership coach to pastors, I found there are 4 types of relationships every pastor needs to succeed. Do you have all 4? Find out in today's video. Hey, I'm Matt, 2-time church planter, leadership coach, and spiritual director. I provide gospel guidance to encourage and equip pastors in their spiritual, emotional, and relational health. You can get started by downloading my free guide, 7 Keys to Help You Balance Your Personal and Ministry Life. I'll leave the link below. Your relationships impact the strength of your leadership and ministry. So we're exploring 4 types of relationships pastors need to succeed. The first relationship pastors need to succeed are Merry and Pippin friends. Oh yeah. Remember when Merry and Pippin barge into the Council of Elrond? They've got no idea what they're getting into, but they agree to help Frodo. Why? Because they're deeply loyal friends and enthusiastically sign up for whatever the fellowship needs. Their attitude is, great, where are we going? Pastors need friends like this. Friends that serve as lifelines when things get overwhelming, that provide laughter and encouragement when things get tough. Friends that are quick to say, I'm sorry when they mess up, and quick to forgive one another. Friends like Merry and Pippin offer belonging. They look out for each other. And of course, they're always up for a good breakfast and second breakfast. Proverbs 17:17 says, a friend is loyal and loves at all times, and a brother is born to help in time of need. Last week, I got in a bind with carpool, work, my wife being out of town, 3 loads of wash to dry to prepare our guest room by noon, and the dryer broke. Of course, right? I had back-to-back appointments at work, and I couldn't deal with it. I needed help. So what did I do? I called a friend who was joyful about the opportunity to help me out. While I was at work, they went to my house, picked up the laundry, took it to their house, dried it, and returned it back to my house in time for me to go home for lunch and make up the guest room by the time they arrived. Who do you trust and rely on when you get in a bind? You need friends that love you like that. Proverbs 18:24 says, one who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin, but a real friend sticks closer than a brother. You need friends who don't feel put out to help out because they know you do the same for them. For Jesus, it was Peter, James, John, Mary, and Martha. Who is it for you? Who are the loyal and loving friends in your life? Ask yourself this question. If I were to resign from my role in ministry today, who would still be my friend 6 months from now? That's not a scientific test, but it can help you discern the true friendships you have, the friendships that you want to celebrate, the friendships you want to cultivate. Who are your Merry and Pippin friends? Bro, you've got to have friends like that. The second relationship pastors need to succeed are allies. Allies like Gimli, Legolas, and Aragorn. Like the camaraderie found within the Fellowship of the Ring, allies understand and support your mission, and they're deeply committed to help you see it fulfilled. They don't just support you, they support your mission. As Gimli offered his axe, and Legolas his bow, and Aragorn his sword, you need allies who bring their unique experience and gifting and strengths alongside you and your leadership calling. The fellowship totally benefits from the combined skills and strengths of one another. You need the same. Your leadership and ministry benefits from like-minded allies. Like-minded allies who will encourage you and build you up, who will look out for your best interest, who will help bear your burdens, who will not let you become weary in doing good, but will ensure that you reap a harvest by not giving up. Last fall, I had the privilege of attending the annual gathering of a regional church planting network I'm part of. It was an oasis in the desert. Literally, it was in Lubbock, Texas. But it was an oasis where weary ministry leaders from all around the state found spiritual refreshment and relational encouragement for the journey ahead. The worship was amazing, the teaching impactful, and the various breakout groups focused on practical skills and useful resources to build up pastors and ministry leaders in their unique context. It was an amazing, a beautiful example of mutual support and commitment to the same mission. Y'all, that's the power of allies in ministry. Jesus didn't start a university. Jesus started a relational movement focused on knowing him, becoming like him, and partnering with him to continue his mission and ministry. And you need a fellowship of healthy ministry leaders outside your local church or ministry to learn with, grow with, get support from, and be inspired by. Who's your Gimli, your Legolas, your Aragorn? You need allies like that. All right, the third relationship pastors need to succeed are Sam-wise confidants. In the various terrains and volcanoes of leadership, confidants provide relational sanctuary that is a must. After graduating from seminary, I served as the assistant pastor of a church where a guy named Leonard showed me what a confidant is and how vital it was to my life and ministry. Leonard took me to lunch twice a month and ensured that anything I shared with him would be held in strict confidence. He was 15 to 20 years older than I was and been a faithful lay ministry in the church for years. He listened to my heart. He cautioned me from going too far to the left or too far to the right, and he gave me wise input on how to communicate, teach, and pastor better. Leonard was kind and generous, but most importantly, Leonard believed in me. Confidants provide sanctuary to decompress, share struggles, and find the support that you need. In The Lord of the Rings, Samwise Gamgee exemplifies the role and benefits of a true confidant. A friend, yes. An ally, yes. But even more. Sam didn't want to leave the Shire, but he did so to help Frodo. He wasn't real keen about taking the ring to Mordor, but he was the first to volunteer. And when Frodo couldn't take another step, it was Sam who carried him up the side of Mount Doom. Regardless of the challenge or sacrifice, Sam repeatedly said to Frodo, "I'm going with you." He made a promise and he kept it, even in the face of death. That's a confidant. Jesus said, "There's no greater love than to lay down one's life for one's friends." And that's why Tolkien considered Sam to be the true hero of the story. It's through Sam that we catch a glimpse of the suffering servanthood of Christ, who loves his friends so passionately that he'll never leave them or forsake them, but be willing to die for them. More than a friend, more than an ally, Sam epitomizes unwavering trust, absolute loyalty, and fierce dedication. That's a true confidant. Frodo wouldn't have gotten far without Sam, would he? Confidants care even more about you than they do about the mission, and that's really important. Confidants give you honest feedback. They protect you from those who might otherwise harm you. Confidants are safe people. You can go to them for anything without fear of losing face or being embarrassed. Confidants listen to you. They ask you really good questions. They offer valuable perspectives. They hold you accountable. And they're not invested in the outcome as much as they're invested in you and your well-being. Here's 3 ways to know you've got a confidant. When you screw up or make a fool of yourself, a confidant doesn't think you've done a permanent job. They're there to help you learn and live forward. A confidant will tell you what you need to hear, even if it's tough love, because they have your best interest at heart. A confidant will empathize with your hurt and struggle. They'll suffer with you and stay with you as long as it takes for you to walk out of the darkness and into the light. Bro, who are your confidants? Who's your Sam? You've got to have someone in your life that plays that role. When I planted my first church, I wasn't making enough money to make ends meet. We just had our first child, and one evening I found my wife in tears because we didn't have enough money to buy milk. So I called a confidant. I asked him to pray for us and to help me figure out a way to make ends meet for the next couple of months. Now, I don't know what he prayed. I don't know who he called. But the next morning on my front porch, there was an envelope with 10 grocery store gift cards. Bro, you got to have a confidant like that. The fourth relationship pastors need to succeed are Gandalf-like sages. Where would Luke be without Obi-Wan Kenobi? Daniel without Mr. Miyagi? Neo without Morpheus? Harry without Professor Dumbledore? Poe without Master Shifu? And of course, where would Frodo be without Gandalf? Everywhere Gandalf goes, he seeks to help others. He seeks to restore hope. He fights evil. He's this humble, holy, wise, and tested warrior. And like all the mentors I just mentioned, Gandalf's been there before. And so he sees more clearly than the rest, which makes him a trusted guide to show the way. And he does, for the sake of others playing their part to fulfill the mission. He shows up at the critical times to provide gentle comfort and offer clear direction. Now, I'm not advocating that you go conjure up a wizard. What I mean is this. Every pastor needs a pastor. Every leader needs a coach. Every disciple needs someone to disciple them. And that means you too, bro. You need someone who intentionally helps you grow in spiritual, emotional, and relational health. Someone to help you broaden your perspective. Someone who will empower you to stay firm in your convictions. Someone who will call out your strengths, invest in your gifting, and hold you up in the Lord to be and do everything you've been created and redeemed to enjoy. Moses had Jethro, Joshua had Moses, Samuel had Eli, David had Samuel, Elisha had Elijah, Paul had Barnabas, Timothy, Silas, and Titus had Paul. Who's pastoring you? Who's coaching you? Who's discipling you? We never stop learning. We never stop growing. So we're always in need of trusted gospel guides who've been where we're going and who will accompany us along the way. I totally regret making the arrogant mistake of not pursuing this important relationship during certain seasons of my life and leadership when I needed the mentoring of sages the most. I often justified my lack of initiative with the excuse of being too busy or lacking sufficient funds or not knowing anyone who would invest in me like that. But when I sought a sage, it always enriched my relationship with God. It always strengthened my marriage, and it benefited my ministry. So sages have become a normal and regular priority in my life and ministry. Now, you don't pay for friends, you don't pay for allies, you don't pay for confidants, but most often you do pay for your sages. I've got sages for different areas of my life and leadership. I've got a sage who's a ministry coach, a sage who's a therapist, and a sage who's a spiritual director. Why? Because I take God's call on my life extremely seriously. And that means I always want to be learning and growing and getting better at my craft to honor God and to serve those He entrusts in my care with the very best I have to offer. And that means I need help. And I'm willing to pay for the very best help that I can get. My calling and contribution to the kingdom is worth me becoming the very best version of who God created and redeemed me to be. And the same is true for you, bro. Don't put off finding a sage or two in your life. You're worth it. And so are those you love and lead. Now, if you're interested in transformational leadership coaching or gospel-centered spiritual direction with me, I'd love to accompany you. I offer a free 30-minute discovery call to hear your story, understand your needs, and discern the possibilities of investing in your life and your leadership. I'll leave the link below. Do you ever wonder why some pastors flourish and others just tend to fizzle? It's about the relationships you intentionally surround yourself with. You cannot make it alone. You need 4 types of relationships to succeed: friends, allies, confidants, and sages. Hey, check out this next video, 3 warning signs you're a people-pleasing pastor and how to stop. I think it'll encourage you. And before you go, please like this video and be sure to subscribe.